Throughout history, every great civilization did the same thing. The Egyptians declared them messengers of the gods. The Japanese built temples in their honor. The Celts described them as walkers between two worlds. Civilizations that had no contact with each other, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, all arrived at the same conclusion about the same animal. No one asked why, until the Gnostic texts resurfaced. And what Jesus said about this animal in those texts explains why every one of those civilizations reached the same answer. But more importantly, it explains why the church spent centuries trying to destroy this one single creature. This is not a video about pets. This is not about companionship, comfort, or the cute things cats do when they chase a laser pointer across your living room floor. What you are about to hear has been buried for almost 2,000 years. It was stripped from the canonical texts, erased from church doctrine, and replaced with a lie so effective that even today, in some parts of the world, people still cross the street when a black cat walks by. That reaction is not superstition. It is the residue of a deliberate campaign. A campaign designed to separate you from the most powerful spiritual protection that exists in the physical world. Jesus did not teach his inner circle through abstract theology. He gave them tools, practical, physical, applicable tools for navigating a world that was not what it appeared to be. He told them the material world was a construct, that invisible forces managed this construct and fed on human energy. He called these forces by a name that the Gnostic texts preserved, Archons, and he told his closest students that these Archons had specific limitations. They operated within a specific frequency band. They could influence the human mind during sleep. They could attach to emotional weakness, fear, guilt, shame, confusion, but they could not penetrate every space. There were barriers they could not cross, and one of those barriers was alive. The Gospel of Philip contains passages that the institutional church has never acknowledged publicly. In these passages, the nature of spiritual protection is discussed not as prayer, not as ritual, not as faith, but as frequency. The text describes how certain living beings carry a vibrational signature that disrupts the archonic field. This signature is not something they produce intentionally. It is woven into their biology, into their nervous system, into the sound they make when they are at rest. If you have ever placed your hand on a cat while it was purring, you already know what this feels like. That low, steady vibration that moves through your fingers, through your palm, into your chest. That is not just a sound. That is a frequency. And that frequency does something that science has measured but never fully explained. A cat purrs within a range of 20 to 140 hertz. This is not random. This specific range has been clinically documented to promote bone density, reduce inflammation, lower blood pressure, and accelerate tissue repair. But those are just the physical effects. The Gnostic texts suggest that this same frequency range does something far more significant on an energetic level. It creates a field, a living, pulsing, vibrating field that surrounds the cat and extends into the space it occupies. And this field operates at a band that is incompatible with archonic presence. Think about that for a moment. A creature that generates a protective frequency field simply by existing, simply by breathing. It does not need to be activated. It does not need to be trained. Its protection is automatic, continuous, and built into its very biology. Now ask yourself something. If you were a force that fed on human fear, that needed access to human homes to do your work, what would be the single greatest threat to your operation? Not a prayer that humans might forget, not a ritual that requires discipline, but a living creature that generates a counter-frequency every second of every day without ever stopping. You would want that creature gone. You would want it feared. You would want humans to turn against their own guardian. And that is exactly what happened. In the year 1233, Pope Gregory IX issued a papal decree that changed the course of European history. The decree was called Vox in Rama. In this document, cats, specifically black cats, were officially declared agents of Satan. They were described as vessels of demonic energy. Church authorities were given permission, and in many cases direct orders, to exterminate them. What followed was a campaign of destruction that spread across the continent over the next century. Cats were hunted, captured, burned, and killed in numbers that historians still struggle to calculate. Entire cities became cat-free zones. Owning a cat became suspicious. Being seen with a cat could lead to accusations of witchcraft. The church told the people they were being protected, that eliminating these creatures would cleanse their homes of evil influence. The people believed it. They handed over their cats. They participated in the killings. They thought they were doing the right thing. They were doing the opposite. Within little more than a century of the cat purge's beginning, Europe was struck by the Black Death. The bubonic plague swept across the continent and killed an estimated 75 to 200 million people. History books explain this through a simple chain. Fewer cats meant more rats. More rats meant more fleas. More fleas meant more plague. And that chain is true as far as it goes, but it does not go far enough. The Gnostic framework adds a layer that history books will never include. When the cats were removed, the frequency barrier fell. Homes that had been protected for generations were suddenly exposed. The archonic field could enter freely. And what enters through that field is not a bacterium, it is influence. It is the slow erosion of mental clarity, the increase of fear, the collapse of rational thought, the susceptibility to panic, to despair, to the kind of collective madness that allows a plague to become an apocalypse. The rats carried the fleas carried the bacteria, but something else carried the despair, something that had been kept outside the door for as long as cats sat on the threshold. This is not a metaphor. This is a pattern, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Jesus understood something about cats that modern science is only beginning to touch. He understood that their protection operates on 3 distinct levels, and that these levels work together to create something far more powerful than any one of them alone. The first level is detection. A cat does not simply exist in your home. It patrols, it watches, it monitors. You have seen this with your own eyes, even if you never understood what you were seeing. Your cat stares at an empty corner of the room. It follows something with its eyes that you cannot see. It suddenly stops in the middle of walking, ears forward, body tense, locked onto something invisible. You thought this was quirky behavior. You laughed about it. You maybe filmed it and posted it online. But what your cat was doing in that moment was identifying an archonic presence that had entered, or was attempting to enter, your space. Cats perceive a spectrum of reality that human senses cannot access. Their eyes process ultraviolet light. Their whiskers detect shifts in air pressure so subtle that no instrument can match them. Their ears register frequencies beyond human range. These are not just biological advantages for hunting mice. These are sensory tools designed to perceive the energetic layer of reality, the layer where archons operate. When your cat stares at nothing, it is not staring at nothing. It is seeing something beyond your visual threshold. When your cat becomes alert in a perfectly silent room, it is hearing something outside your auditory range. When your cat arches its back and its fur stands on end for no visible reason, it is responding to a presence that has crossed into the detection zone. This is the first layer, the early warning system, the silent alarm that goes off every time something attempts to breach the boundary of your home. The second level is emission. This is where the purr becomes relevant, not as a cute sound, not as a sign of contentment, but as a weapon. When a cat purrs, it generates a low-frequency vibration that radiates outward from its body. This vibration does not stop at the surface of the cat. It extends into the surrounding space, creating what can only be described as a frequency field. This field is measurable. It is physical, and it has properties that directly counter the frequency band in which archons operate. The archonic frequency is chaotic, unstable, and dissonant. It resonates with fear, confusion, anxiety, and despair. These are the emotional states that archons feed on and generate. Their presence creates a persistent feeling of heaviness, of something being wrong that you cannot name. The cat purr frequency is the exact opposite: steady, rhythmic, coherent. When this stable vibration enters the same space as the archonic signal, it makes it structurally impossible for that frequency to maintain coherence. Like a tuning fork that forces every string in the room to match its pitch, the purr creates a zone of harmonic order where the chaotic archonic signal simply falls apart. This is why you feel calm when a cat is purring near you. This is why hospital studies have shown that cat owners recover faster from surgery. This is why people with cats report better sleep, lower anxiety, and a sense of safety that they cannot logically explain. It is not the companionship, it is the field. The third level is positioning. This is the detail that most people miss entirely, and it is perhaps the most remarkable of the three. Watch where your cat sleeps. Watch where it chooses to sit for hours. Watch which spots in your home it returns to again and again. These are not random preferences. A cat is not choosing the warmest spot or the softest surface. A cat is identifying and occupying the energetic entry points of your home. Every physical space has points where the boundary between the material dimension and the energetic dimension is thinner. Doorways, windows, corners, intersections of walls. These are exactly the points where your cat positions itself. When your cat sleeps in the doorway, it is not being inconvenient. It is blocking an entry point. When it sits on the windowsill for hours, it is not watching birds. It is guarding a threshold. When it claims a specific corner and refuses to move, it has identified that spot as a vulnerability and is covering it with its frequency field. Detection, emission, positioning. 3 layers working in perfect coordination. Your cat sees what is coming. It generates a field that repels it, and it places itself exactly where the threat would enter. This is not instinct in the way science defines instinct. This is a protection system that operates with intelligence, awareness, and purpose. Now here is what Jesus taught his inner circle that changes everything. A cat protects your home, whether you know it or not. It has been doing this since the first night it slept under your roof. But Jesus told his students that this protection has a second level, a level that only activates when the human becomes conscious of what the cat is doing. When you recognize your cat as a protector, when you understand the nature of the field it generates, when you consciously align your own energy with its frequency, something shifts. The protection does not just continue, it amplifies, it doubles. It becomes something that no archonic force can approach, let alone penetrate. The technique Jesus gave his students was simple, and that simplicity is what made the church most afraid. Because it required no priest, no church, no intermediary. Just you and the cat that was already in your home. Place your hand on your cat when it is purring. Close your eyes. Feel the vibration entering your palm. Now here is the part that was stripped from the texts. Do not just feel it physically, follow it. Follow the vibration as it moves from your hand into your arm, into your chest, into the center of your body. There is a point in the center of your chest where this vibration will settle. You will feel it, not as imagination, as a physical sensation, a warmth, a hum, a resonance that matches the frequency your cat is producing. When that resonance locks in, your energy field and the cat energy field merge into a single protective boundary. You are no longer 2 separate beings in a house. You are one unified field. And that unified field is exponentially stronger than the cat field alone. This is what the church could not allow. This was about a technique that gave every person with a cat the ability to create an impenetrable spiritual barrier in their own home, without any religious institution, without any authority, without any permission from anyone. A free person in a protected space with direct access to their own spiritual power. That is what was erased. Right now, while you are hearing this, something in your chest is responding. You might feel it as a slight warmth, a tingling, a subtle shift in your breathing. That is not imagination. That is your inner spark recognizing a frequency it has always known. That is your body remembering something your mind was taught to forget. If you have a cat and you are hearing these words right now, I want you to understand something. You did not find your cat by accident. That cat entered your life at a specific time for a specific reason. Think back to when your cat appeared. Think about what was happening in your life at that moment, what you were going through, what you were struggling with, what was trying to reach you in the dark. Your cat arrived exactly when you needed protection, and it has been standing between you and what you cannot see ever since, every night, without fail, without asking for anything in return. Tell me something in the comments. When did your cat come into your life, and what were you going through at that time? Not because I am curious, because when you write that story, someone else who is going through the same thing right now will read it and understand that they are not alone. Your story is not just a comment, it is a hand reaching out to another chosen one who is still waking up. Now let me tell you what happens when this connection is established, because this is not theory. There are signs, and once you know what to look for, you will start seeing them immediately. The first sign is sleep. Within the first few nights of consciously bonding with your cat using the technique described, your sleep will change. Not gradually, noticeably. The heaviness that sits on your chest at 3 in the morning, the sudden waking with a racing heart, the dreams that feel less like dreams and more like something was in the room with you, these begin to fade. They fade because the unified field you have created with your cat now extends over you while you sleep. The window that was open is now closed. The second sign is mental clarity. The fog that has been sitting behind your eyes for months, maybe years, begins to lift. The inner voice that constantly criticizes, doubts, and undermines you grows quieter. Not because you fought it, but because that voice was never yours to begin with. It was a signal, a broadcast, and now the broadcast is being jammed by a frequency that was always available to you, but that you never consciously activated. The third sign is what your cat does differently. Once you begin the conscious bonding, your cat will respond. It will come to you more often. It will purr louder and longer in your presence. It will position itself closer to you during sleep. This is not coincidence, and it is not affection in the way we usually understand it. Your cat recognizes that you have finally understood the partnership, and it is responding by increasing its output. The field grows stronger because both sources are now synchronized. There is a voice inside some of you right now saying, "This sounds too simple." That voice appeared at exactly the moment you were about to take action. Not before. Not during the historical section. Right now. At the moment of application. That timing is not accidental. That doubt is not yours. That is resistance. And resistance only shows up when something real is about to change. The system does not waste energy on things that do not threaten it. The fact that something in you is pushing back is the clearest confirmation that you are standing at the edge of something the Archons do not want you to cross. Do not wait until tomorrow. The state of awareness you are in right now is not permanent. Tonight, the system will work to make you forget. It will send doubt. It will send distraction. It will make this feel like something you watched once and moved on from. That is what it does. That is how it keeps people in the loop of knowing but never doing. Tonight, before you sleep, find your cat. Place your hand on its chest. Feel the purr. Follow the vibration inward. Let it reach the center of your chest and hold it there. That is all. That is the entire practice. Simple enough that a child could do it. Powerful enough that a global institution spent centuries trying to make sure you never would. If you do not have a cat, this video found you for a reason. Pay attention to what comes into your life in the next few days. A stray that appears at your door. A friend who mentions a cat that needs a home. An impulse you cannot explain to visit a shelter. These are not coincidences. You are not watching this by accident. You are not meant to scroll past it. Something in you recognized this information before your mind could process it. That recognition, that pull, that is your spark responding to a truth that has been kept from you for almost 2,000 years. Your cat has been protecting you since the first night. Now you can protect it back. Not with food and shelter, with recognition. with the conscious choice to stand on the same frequency as the creature that has been guarding you every single night. If this reached you at the right time, if you felt something shift while listening, subscribe to this channel. This is not entertainment. This is the information that was taken from you, returned one piece at a time. And the next piece is already waiting. Hit the like button, not for me, for the algorithm. Because every like pushes this further into the feed of someone else who is searching for exactly this. Someone who has a cat sleeping on their chest right now and has no idea what that means. Your like is how this reaches them. Your like is how the silenced teaching finds the next person who is ready to hear it. The church burned the texts. They killed the cats. They rewrote the story. But they could not destroy the frequency. They could not stop cats from purring. And they could not stop you from finding this. The page they erased is open in front of you now. What you do with it is between you and the spark that brought you here.